Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Today's guest, Amanda Kelly, says we take the kids no one else will. The ones who've been kicked out of the schools and clinics because they still deserve a place to belong. Amanda, thank you so much for the work that you do. You were supposed to be here for just a year. Now you're 13 years in. You're running out of one of the most unique autism programs in the country. You and your daughter, you not your daughter, you and your sister, twin sister, if I'm not mistaken, were doing
Yes.
this for a very long time. What did
Yeah.
growing up in a rural Ireland as an identical twin teach you about connection and fairness?
Oh, God, such a great question. Well, first of all, I feel really lucky to have grown up in the middle of Ireland in a really small village. And anyone who knows me also knows how lucky I feel being an identical twin. Connection is really important to me and to her, and we always said that we're such social people because we were with somebody from conception. So
That's funny.
that's where my social nature comes from. But I think, growing up where we did in the 90s and the early 2000s, nobody really talked about autism. I think back to when I was in school, and I think any of us who were in that school at the time can say there was probably classmates of ours who may have been on the spectrum or would have been identified had it been today, but there was really nothing. And I was reflecting before coming on the podcast, and I was thinking about it, and in 2003, there were a few schools founded in Ireland for kids with autism by families. And really, that was kind of the first real push to have kids who were not able to be successful in regular education have a place in Ireland. And my twin and I, doing everything together as we did for a long time before I left her and moved here, my twin and I, we started working in one of those schools. So it was one of the first schools specifically for kids with autism. And the school was in Dublin. And it was for kids with significant support needs. And really, it was kind of like this culmination of growing up in a really, really tiny place where nobody really understood autism, having a neighbour who has a son who was identified as autistic while we were growing up, working with him a little bit and being blown away by his amazing mind. And then at 21, going and working in this school for kids with significant support needs for 5 years. And I feel like it just shaped everything for us. It was at that point in time, you're just all in, you know?
So I have a couple of personal questions here. So the first one
Okay.
is your accent. I can imagine someone always says something about your accent. Do you get this probably every day? Someone say where you're from,
Yeah.
and then when you tell them Ireland, what is the next thing they actually say?
Most people are so, everybody actually. I think Colorado is a very lovely place, and most people are so nice and say, "Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go," or I'm part Irish, or something nice like that. Or if people have been, they're just really interested to know where I'm from. And I always say I'm from the part of Ireland that nobody visits. I don't think anyone's like, I'm going to go to Ireland and go to right into the middle.
Is there something that people say that you just be like, just kind of almost roll your eyes at? Like, does anyone compare or mention Conor McGregor?
Sometimes. Sometimes that might invoke an eye roll here and there. Somebody once said to me his family were Irish, and he once said, "I'm more Irish than you are," and I was like, "Well, I mean, I probably not. I was born there."
Probably didn't even have the accent. Like, okay, so where's your accent? Like, that's
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
That is too funny. The other thing that I wanted to ask is, you leaving your sister. You said it's supposed to be a year. You leave your sister. What lesson? There had to be a big lesson learned there, leaving your sister after all these years. What lesson comes
Yeah.
to mind that you felt you learned?
Yeah, I mean, way to drill that home. Yes, I did leave her. Um, yes. Yeah, we were 27, 28. We had done a doctorate in behavioral psychology, and our paths were just kind of verging in different directions. Michelle is an amazing researcher and scientist, and she was doing a postdoc in Trinity College, Dublin, which many people might know. Um, in basically in the neuroscience department and with the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland. And did not want to go back to do research. I was like, the doctoral thesis is done, would rather stay kind of more on the clinical side of things. And I had always been adventurous with travel. And I just decided maybe I'll go to the US for a year and see what that's like. And I'm very stubborn, so I was looking up jobs and I found this job at this nonprofit called Firefly Autism, found it online, reached out, and miraculously, for some reason, they decided that they would hire me. And that started a year-long process of getting a visa. I was very naive. I was like, sure, I can get a job in the US. That's easy. Not really. So the visa process took a long time. And thankfully, by the time that was all done, I still had a place at Firefly, as everybody does, which we'll probably get to. But I moved over in December of 2012 and started my job there in January of 2013. And it was for 1 year. As you said, I had a 1 year visa. I was like, don't worry, family, I'll be back. And about 9 months in, I was just thinking, I really like this. I love the job. I was doing home-based services for families and kids with autism at the time. And I just could see some opportunities for growth there. And the leadership at Firefly at the time helped me connect with an attorney in Denver and got an additional visa for another few years. And then I met my husband, who's from Oklahoma. I, you know, I think no matter what, I probably would have been here for a long time. But then, of course, meeting the guy, and I now have
The
a,
guy of your dreams.
yeah, I now have a gorgeous 4-year-old son as well. He's a very lucky little man. He has an Irish passport and an American passport. So that's changed things dramatically, but my family and I are still so close. Like, my sister is actually going to be here in a couple of weeks. I was home in June. I talk to my mom and dad all the time. They're so supportive. I absolutely broke my mom's heart by moving, but I think she's forgiven me, and I'm very lucky that we still get to see each other a lot.
This is completely not what you just said, but I don't know why it made me think of this for whatever reason. But do you know who Becky Lynch is?
No, I don't know who Becky Lynch is.
Look up Becky Lynch. You're giving me very Becky Lynch vibes. But she's
Okay.
also from Ireland. She's an ass kicker. Okay, she's a wrestler.
Oh,
But she's an
okay.
ass
Nice.
kicker. I'm into big. I'm a big wrestling fan.
Okay.
There's so many
Nice.
wrestlers from Ireland, so it's
Yes.
almost I feel like I hear your accent often. I'm just enjoying it right now, having a good old time. But
Nice.
what I love is that this story goes from you taking a risk to come to America,
Yes.
right? You say I'm gonna stay a year. Obviously, 10 plus years now, you're still here, but you started here with a vision. I want to go and work at this Firefly Autism place. That don't know what it is, but now you actually lead that. Like, what was that journey like for you? I can imagine there were some challenges that you've experienced, the fun stuff that you've experienced. There's a reason why you stayed also with this organization for so long. If you can give us
Yeah.
that insight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an unbelievable journey. I mean, it's been 13 years now, and I've had the honor of being the CEO of Firefly for the last 3.5 years. And yes, it has been quite the journey. So when I first started, relatively quickly, I started leading the home-based services team, and I really realized that I loved leadership. I loved everything that came along with developing people, making sure that people felt their best selves and had the tools that they
Hmm.
needed to be able to give to the clients and the learners and the families. And obviously, that was a big piece of it as well. I mean, I can't tell you the unbelievable stories I've seen over the last 13 years in terms of children that have made crazy progress, going from, being nonverbal or not able to speak to being able to speak after a few years of intervention, and how key early intervention has been. And it's really hard not to be inspired. And I tell people this all the time, like, all I have to do is walk around our clinic in Lakewood, and I'm close to tears and very inspired by what we do. 3.5 years ago, my predecessor, Jesse Ogas, a wonderful man with a giant personality, decided that he was going to move on, and he'd been there for years. And when the opportunity presented itself, I just knew that it was something that I really wanted. I am so passionate about this organization, and very grateful that the board of directors, after a national search, decided that I was the best fit for the job. And I learn something every single day. I listen all the time. And it's really important to me to make sure that in Colorado and beyond, because we do have services elsewhere as well, but that kids and teens and adults and who don't have access to services can get access.
Hmm.
So it's not hard. Like I said, you just look around, you're inspired all the time. And the work is so important, and it's
Hmm.
ever present work to make sure that you are actually helping people have the life that they want and they deserve. So,
And Firefly Autism is very unique in a sense because you take cases other programs really turn away, right? You built a whole philosophy around it as well. What does it actually mean to run this organization where there are holes in the wall and high
yes, there are.
workman's comp claims are part of the job, right? But
Yes.
still, there's still love for it. It's part of the process. It's part of the journey for some of these young individuals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it goes back to that school for autistic children in Dublin, and
Hmm.
seeing some of those learners who really didn't have anywhere else to go, and finding a place in Colorado who is the same, and working with learners who are so unique, and I mean so unique, that it is really hard to find the right fit and the right resources. And I think why Firefly is so unique and so special, and we're not the only organization that does similar work, let me be clear.
Hmm.
But it's the ability to provide those one-on-one or two-on-one staffing levels, the quality of our staff, the training that they provide, our constant need to make sure that people have what they deserve, and trying to make sure that we're always engaging support from outside individuals for partnerships, for philanthropic support, making sure that we have an amazing facility. Our facility in Lakewood, Colorado is incredible. We've got sensory gym, we've got a community garden, we've got large classrooms, bright, big natural light, making sure sensory integration is key. So we're very lucky in that way. So I think it's a blend of having the physical space that's the right physical space,
Hmm.
the training and education that's necessary to provide really high quality care, and the passion behind the work that we do. Now, as you said, like it's not easy. It's not the easiest, and I always said that we're really grateful to be a nonprofit organization that can fundraise for the difference between some reimbursements and the work that we actually do, because it wouldn't be possible otherwise. Like, we would not exist if it weren't for philanthropy. So I'm very grateful for that as well. But I think that there's been so many times, I mean, countless times, genuinely, over the last 13 years, where a family has said to me, this is the first time that we've been able to find somewhere that's the right fit. And, I'm not naive to think that we're always going to be the right fit. That's not the case either. But for us, it's really about who are the individuals who have the most access barriers. Access barriers look like people who are so unique that they really have a really tough time finding the right care. Individuals who don't fit the mold. So, individuals who either have very significant needs, or their needs are not significant enough to qualify for certain services. And then,
Hmm.
of course, there's geographical considerations as well. We've got families who drive to Firefly from places like Kiowa and Lyman,
Wow.
which, if you're in Colorado, that's probably a 2-hour drive each way every single day for years and years. So you think about if you're a parent of a child with autism, and the only place that suits your needs is a 2-hour drive each way. So you have to make the decision. I'm going to drive 4 hours a day, every day, for years to get my kid what they need. And as a parent, you do it because you would do anything for your kid. But that
Yeah.
has repercussions. You can't work if that's what you do, right? So there's just so many needs that we see, and thankful that we're in a position to be able to provide that care, but also understanding that more needs to be done.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. I'm thankful, and I say this almost every episode. I'm thankful that you didn't chase a paycheck. You truly chase purpose.
Yes.
Like it wasn't, you didn't come here for the paycheck. You came here off a purpose-driven mission. And today you're still at that same place that you came to America for because you found your purpose in leading others and changing someone's life. And you kind of talked on, where we're at when it comes to this type of service. The numbers have exploded and the system isn't really built for what we have and what's really coming, right? How does the jump from 1 in 54 to 1 in 31 diagnosed change the conversation?
Yeah, and diagnostic rates is a big topic of conversation, and rightfully so. I think that people relatively frequently ask, like, what accounts for the increase in rates, and the real answer is that we have a lot more education, a lot more understanding. There's more frequent diagnostics. Diagnostics go across the span of someone's life now, whereas before it was only children who were diagnosed. You see a lot of adults getting diagnosed more recently as well. And that doesn't account for everything, and I won't get into the cause of autism and things like that because we could be here all day. But in terms of the systems levels approaches, you're right that we are not set up to be able to handle the number of individuals who truly need support. And I see that through lots of mechanisms, right? You think about the school systems, and with no blame whatsoever, but there are a lot of teachers who are struggling in classrooms because they don't have the support that they need to be able to very adequately educate all of the individuals in their classrooms, because there's so many, i.e. individualized education plans at play. So that's people who need individualized support. And I'm speaking from, I talked to a friend of mine over the weekend, and she's a school teacher and was in a school with 28 children in her class, and half of the class had individualized education plans.
Wow.
And she's just one person, and she said it made her feel like she wasn't doing a good job, and she ultimately did decide not to return to that school. But it just goes to show that there's so much need and there's not enough resources. So where I come from is we have to be able to come together. Any autism service organizations, autism support organizations have to be able to come together and say, how can we be the ones to help support education systems, medical systems, support partnerships? There's no competition here, right? It's going to make a lot more sense for us to make sure that we can be part of the solution, and that there's not this like, well, we own this part of education and we own
Yeah.
this part of therapy. So that's kind of the philosophy that we come from. Partnerships are so key.
Can you talk about, we're talking about partnerships, that you have a special one with Chickasaw Nation, right? Can you
Yes.
talk about how that shows what's possible in communities when you get creative?
Yes. I'm not supposed to say I have favorite partnerships. This is one of my favorite partnerships. Yes. So, and this all came about. My husband is part Chickasaw, and we get the Chickasaw Times delivered to our apartment at the time. And I saw an article about how autistic children and their families were very underserved, and essentially just reached out and got connected to someone who led the pediatrics in the Chickasaw Nation. And we ended up talking, and at that time, it just so happened that the Chickasaw Nation got a federal grant to expand their pediatric therapeutic services. So we engaged in this partnership, a very, very unique one. I'm not sure there's another one that exists that was like this. And we helped the Chickasaw Nation build out their autism support services, everywhere from completing trainings for nurses, therapists, social workers, and then helping them build a referral system. So essentially, when diagnostics happened, they go into this referral system that we helped build, and then get referred for the support and services that they need. And then we're also lucky enough to be able to actually provide direct therapy to families as well. So through that partnership, we're probably approaching close-ish to 3 years, 2.5 years. We've helped about 250 Chickasaw families access
Wow.
support or services in some way, shape, or form. So that's been really, really profound, and obviously my family ties is really nice. My sister-in-law, who is wonderful, she leads a clinic in Oklahoma. She's a nurse and leads a clinic. She's wonderful, and at one point in time, she did a Firefly training. She sent me a picture, like, guess what I'm doing is a Firefly training, and that was a real kind of full circle
Wow.
moment for me.
Uh, that's good, man. You've been able to see the growth over all these years. 13 years. I can imagine when you walked into it to what it is now, it's probably night and day. And a lot of it is probably, as you mentioned, there used to be a great leader that served before you. So a lot of
Yes.
probably the groundwork that he's been able to do. But now for the last 3 years, you've also been able to lay your own foundation, down. What have you seen in the last 3 years? What growth has been made in the last 3 years that could be accounted to your leadership and the people that you lead?
Yeah, yeah, it's been a journey for sure. I think one of the things that's been really important to me is understanding kind of contextual shifts in our state and obviously in the United States as a whole, and understanding really where the real need is. There's been an explosion of autism service providers, which everybody welcomes. That's amazing. Over the past 10 years, but 10 years ago, the autism support services sphere did not look like this, right? It was, what Firefly was doing at the time was more kind of what a lot more service organizations are doing today. So there was a necessity to kind of sit back and say, we're a mission-based organization. This is mission-driven leadership. What is it? Like, why do we exist? And through all of that became this like real clarity around supporting individuals with access barriers. The people who can't find support elsewhere, who are either, have too many support needs or not enough support needs, and really kind of honing in on that. And I think in terms of growth, the expansion to Colorado, the expansion to Oklahoma, and then we had some services in North Dakota for a little while. That will continue. Obviously, that's a huge piece of my legacy that I'm really, really proud of. And then our physical space has really developed a lot as well. We have a partnership with Denver Urban Gardens and have a large community garden on our property, and we're able to conduct research in understanding how gardening and growing your own food and fruit and vegetables can really help autistic individuals who have some maybe food sensitivities. So once we publish that research, I'll be sure to let you know.
That's cool.
But those are some really important steps, and I think that when you and I first met, we talked a lot about training and education, and I think that's really the next step in terms of continued growth. I think it's so key. Like we have to realize that like we're one organization. While we can do a lot, we can't do everything. And I want to be the reason why we can disseminate information, training, education, tools, and support to the broader community, so that, for example, the teacher in the classroom feels like that they have the tools that they need to be successful. So I think education and training is the way forward. I think there's a model that I would love to see, which it would be more continuous built-in consultation for school districts, for educators, even for medical professionals where needed. And medical professionals obviously are incredible, but not everybody knows the depth of autism the way organizations like Firefly do.
Would you say that when you started it 13 years ago, it was a smaller organization and it's grew over the last 13 years? Like, did you notice that? Like, just everything that you guys are doing year to year and all the growth that's happening?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And the answer is not straightforward. It's a yes and no question. I mean, yes, in so many ways, in terms of the maturity of the organization. And I think the growth has been different. So, 13 years ago, we didn't have services in any other state. There was no training and education program. We weren't doing research on anything. And I think the growth has also been due to necessity, because there's been landscape shifts in the way that autism services have been provided. So I think in terms of growth, it's really looking back and being so proud that we didn't just keep doing the same thing, because that's not what this community needed. This community needed Firefly to grow the way that we did, and kind of shift focus every now and again and reconsider these variables that really make it so important that we know who we serve and why.
How many programs do you guys have as of now?
We have, so our core programs, we have our centre-based programs, we have an outreach program which does include telehealth services, parent training, coaching, and then training and education. And then we have adult groups as well, which is really, really key. Our adult groups is a newer, yes, so we didn't have that 13 years ago. So adult groups, we support individuals from 21 and up, and our oldest learner is in her 70s, which is awesome.
I love it.
And these are individuals who, like I said, kind of the opposite end of the, extremely unique. But these individuals are individuals who really find it hard to get the supports that they need because they don't have, quote unquote, significant enough needs. And that's been really, really key as well. So there are core programs. I'm probably forgetting something, but I think they're the core ones.
All good. Put on the spotlight. Can't remember it all. Okay. I can only imagine. No, you talk about growth and expansion, and I think it's great. And I think what we're experiencing now, and I think we may have talked a little bit about it last time, was the role of AI and what that really does for us. And maybe not on the human side of things, but really for the leaders that are having to use it on the back end, whether it's for note taking, whether it's to systemize things, allowing us to do more of the interaction
Yes.
with those patients that need us, and everything else that we didn't go to school for. We didn't go to school for admin. No one cared on what it looked like to organize some papers, but AI could do that for us so well.
Yes.
Are you guys finding different ways, especially in the autism? I see so many different avenues, whether it's tap bands, whether it's being to live on their own, and they have these microwaves and fridges that just kind of beeps or make noises. Are you guys implementing any of these in this space?
Yeah. So the explosion of AI, while people are fearful and skeptical, and I understand all of that, there's a real opportunity here to allow more actual access to care. I don't think you could talk to a clinician that would say, oh yes, I really want to do more paperwork. Like, the paperwork requirements are already so significant. You talk about, getting insurance authorizations and working with Medicaid and the reporting requirements for those things. And even from the philanthropy side for a nonprofit organization, grant applications and data requirements and reporting on impact and all of those things. I mean, it's pretty significant in terms of the requirements for documentation. So one of the things that's been amazing has been integrating AI into the organization in the ways that make sense. And, obviously it's being very cognizant of, data privacy and security and all of those kinds of things, and we're lucky to work with an IT company who really honors that. But also integrating other aspects. So we do work with another company who helps us kind of automate intakes. So taking video and audio data and organizing that data in a way that gives you a really comprehensive assessment notes. So you're cutting down that time that the clinician is taking notes and writing. You're cutting that time down, so there's more access to care. But it goes across the organization. So on the fundraising side, that utilization is key to increase productivity, even from writing emails, being able to get their story out there. And really, I think there's some profound progress in terms of being able to actually give access to care. Now, the one thing that AI can't do is AI can't actually work with children the way that humans do, right? So there's a balance to be struck there, and just really understanding that there's so much importance in that one-to-one in-person interaction. That's so key. But I don't think it would be smart to not integrate AI into an organization at this point in time.
I mean, that is really smart that you said that. Yeah, there's fear and all these different things in it, but yeah, it should be implemented in ways that you mentioned, taking away those admins, taking away the repetitive task, allowing people to do more of what they love and less of the things that they dislike, because that interaction, as you mentioned, that human to human interaction would never go away. You know, I know people will say that ChatGPT has empathy, but empathy looks very different from when I'm talking to Amanda to where ChatGPT is showing me a little bit of empathy, right? Like that human, the facial expressions, the feeling seen and heard.
Yeah.
I think that's what sometimes we lack. So going to just this AI feature to get it, I don't know that works, but there's places where it does work and allows us to kind of move a little bit more freely. And it goes back to what you mentioned, just the education piece of teaching people new things, because in reality, it is new, allowing people to know it's not here. What I like to say is it's not here to replace a job, but if we have a team of 50, it'll allow us to feel at least like we're 65, 70 people, because
Yes.
now it alleviates so much different things that we can actually do. And I love it. And I really want to talk to more of your leadership that you've been just so amazing with for the last 3 years. I mean, really for 13 plus years as you've been at Firefly. And I can only imagine before that as well. But you're in a space where the need will always outpace the resources. And you still
Yes.
always find ways that you can actually grow. How do you prioritize um, impact when the list of needs never ends?
Yeah. It's not easy. And I think for us at Firefly, we always want to be a resource. And there's, I've realized that I actually have said this term a lot over the last 3 years. And the term that I say is, if we can't do it, we know somebody else who can. So again, it's the understanding, like, we're not naive enough to think that we can do everything. We know what we do really, really well, and we have our hearts dead set on our mission to help people who have the least access be able to thrive. But if there's, and I'll give you a personal anecdote actually. So there was a family that got referred to me recently, and I farm out my cell phone number like nobody's business. I'm like, give away my phone number, anybody can call me. What does a 10-minute conversation cost me when I can actually really help someone who's navigating a new diagnosis? And this a contact sent me this person, and this mom, she called me and she was distraught, and she was in floods of tears. She said her 3-year-old daughter had just been diagnosed with autism. She didn't know where to start. She was so confused. She just was totally overwhelmed. And we talked for a while, and I asked her, just questions like, where do you live? What makes sense for your family? Tell me a little bit more. And through that, I ended up referring her to a wonderful autism organization who is there. I think they might be national, but they have a presence in in Aurora, where this family lived. And they do wonderful early intervention services. This little girl is 3. So at the end of the day, I didn't say come to Firefly, because the family needed somewhere close. They were already overwhelmed. I believe there were some transportation issues. So it was like, no, let me find you the best possible place, because that's what you need. So when you talk about impact and you talk about, how do you prioritize, or how do you make sure that impact still happens when the need is so great? That is the beauty of partnerships. And I feel so lucky that I have gotten to know so many individuals who work in Colorado in the in the spaces that we work in, and I'm able to be part of a network of people who are so willing to share resources. So it's really being educated about what's out there, and then making sure that you're sharing those resources. And really, things come back to you then, right? Like, that organization, at some point in time, they're going to get somebody who is way better of a fit for us than for them, and they will return that favor. I
Yeah.
fully believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love how you say it's we're a team doing this, right? Like as you mentioned, they're not going to be able to take care of everybody. At some point, their limit is also a reach, so they have to find somewhere else that someone else can do it. And because you guys are all in the same space, your missions are the same, the love for this space is the same. Of course, they're going to find anywhere and everywhere that they can help somebody, just like you did. As you mentioned, it'll be back, it'll be done back. And I love that. I love that you are not, because so many times leaders get so selfish and feel
Yeah,
like, oh, it's only us. But it's like, no, there's a huge problem. And what happens when we all come together
yeah.
to actually solve this problem versus us staying within our own little, cubicles in a sense. So that's what I love about you is you just truly just trying to figure out how can I partner, how can I build relationships that allows us to really expand our networks and expand our resources and expands who hears about us and things like that. So I do like it. And autism, when we talk about autism, is it isn't rare anymore. Maybe at one point in time it was something that people thought it was rare, but it's not. Understanding that it is all our jobs to be able to help these individuals when we come across them, because it is in our families, it is in our schools, it is in our day-to-day lives, where our young kids will even ask, like mom or dad, why is that, and what are those answers? What are we teaching our kids? Because it all starts at home, so
Yeah.
I love it. How can communities partner up with Firefly to fill the gaps? And we talk about partnering and expanding what you guys are already doing.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many partnership opportunities. I talked a little bit about, obviously Firefly Autism is a nonprofit organization. We fundraise for the differences to be able to help these individuals who need it the most. So there's huge opportunities there. I think that if there's any, businesses or larger organizations listening to this who have a passion for this, absolutely reach out. There is always opportunities to be able to support the work that we do and to feel that kind of reciprocal care and resources that we can provide. And for other organizations, I think just understanding that we are here to be able to educate and provide resources for our families. So if it's something that we don't do and you do, like, we want to hear from you.
Hmm.
And I think lastly, there's probably a lack of really good research around individuals who have very significant needs or profound autism. And I think that there's been a really good push in the US and beyond in the last year or two to really recognize that profound autism is not the same as, essentially there's a subset of individuals who have these really significant support needs. And those individuals have been left out of research a lot. And I think we really need to come together and say, why does this look so different? And what is it that we need to do to make sure that these families are not trying to navigate the systems completely blindly? And I'll tell you, there's a lot more to do. After age 21, there's so few resources for families who have learners with very unique needs, who don't fit into certain boxes. There's, day treatment programs are maybe don't have the resources they need to be able to support very unique individuals. You have housing issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. So there's no end to the work that we need to do. So we're just really grateful for anybody who's willing to partner with us and help us with that work.
Amanda, this has been such an amazing conversation and almost 15 years of doing this, but you would have been doing this for a lifetime. You have a
Yeah.
lifetime remaining, right? To be quite frank. But what is your vision for autism 10 years from now when it comes to the autism care?
Oh man. I would love to see less ego. I would love to see less ego and more collaboration in the autism treatment spaces. I believe that AI can be really helpful. I also, I'm also skeptical in some ways, but I believe that there's a way that AI can really help us advance autism treatment. I think really understanding causes and etiology of autism is going to be really important as well. I think we've come a long, long way, but there's still so much misunderstanding about what autism is and isn't and what causes autism. So for me, I think really embracing the training side of things and the education side of things is going to be really important. And I think that in the next 10 to 15 years, we have got to start figuring out how to support neurodivergent kids in schools the way that they need to be supported. And we have got to figure out how we are going to support adults with autism. Because if you think about it, in 20 years, all of those, 4 to 8 year olds who are being diagnosed with autism now are going to be in adulthood. How are we going to support those individuals then? What does housing look like? What does day treatment look like? What does employment look like? I think there's employers are also coming around to the idea that they really have to start thinking about neurodiversity in their workplaces. It's, again, talk about, not a good idea to not think about this. It is not a
Hmm.
good idea to not think about neurodiversity in your workplace, because A, it's already there, and B, it's only going to increase. So there's a lot to do.
I don't know if you've heard of this organization called Louisiana Lighthouse,
No.
and it's a pretty cool organization. And what I love about them was that they used to, I guess, get things from like a manufacturing company. The manufacturing company realized, like, wait a minute, I want to turn my whole manufacturing company to help those that are disabled. So now they actually create all this manufacturing things with people that have disabilities, and they're making these machines so that these are high function machines that me and you would probably be scared of, but they're making it so that they can actually work in these factories and not make the mistakes, whether they're blind, whether there's, whatever that may look like, uh, there's something there for them. They also created a deli that allows them to work. So not only are they an organization where they have all these programs, but also allows to house them and then give them jobs. So you should check it out, Louisiana Lighthouse. I thought it was pretty cool when I hear stuff like that, and it's kind of to what you're mentioning, right? The opportunities. Sometimes it's like the organizations have to find the resources, but also then have to give the job opportunities, and sometimes
Yeah.
become a lot. And it's
Yeah.
when do we have big companies? Let's get the Apples, let's get the
Yeah.
Microsofts to start thinking bigger and differently, because it's not something that's just happening to a very small percentage of our world. It's happening to a big percentage of our world, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes very um, under the radar, I would say. And I'm
Yeah.
loving that people like yourself fighting for it, fighting for this opportunity to make sure that these kids and now also adults don't have to continue to live a life that is different. Why
Yeah.
can't we all be one, right?
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it, Amanda. I know we could be talking about forever, but where can people find more information? Where's the website? What are the socials? Don't give your phone number. You never know how many people are going to
I
watch
won't
this.
farm
Okay, you
out
get
my
a thousand calls.
I won't farm out my cell number on this. And so just before I do that, I do want to mention that I also co-founded the Colorado Neurodiversity Chamber of Commerce, which was the first chamber of commerce in the United States to advance neurodivergent people in business and in leadership. So I had to get that in
Love
there
it.
as well, because it's such an
Yeah.
important part of this community. So yeah, so fireflyautism.org is our website, and you can find anything you need on fireflyautism.org. And there's a lot of resources there, but really I think just reaching out and having a conversation and connecting with the right people there, and just being able to have a conversation with a human who can actually talk to you about what you need is really key.
What was the reasoning for creating this chamber?
Basically kind of what I was just talking about. So myself and two other leaders in this space, Danny Combs, who was the leader of an organisation called TACT, which is Teaching the Autism Community Trades, and then Tiffany Feingold, who has an organisation called Guiding Bright Minds, so resources for families of neurodivergent kids. So three of us came together and said, like, why is there, think about all the chambers of commerce in the US. I think there's like 30 in Colorado alone. We were like, okay, we'll reach out to a chamber of commerce that specifically advances neurodiversity in business and in leadership. And we started looking, we were like, oh my God, there's none in the US or anywhere. Honestly, we can't find any anywhere. And so in 2022, actually, we're almost a year old next week.
Wow.
Sorry, not a year old. We're almost 3 years old. In 2022, August of 2022, we founded the first ever neurodiversity chamber of commerce in the US. And it's been an amazing journey there as well. Like we have an executive director now. She's fantastic. And we consulted with some other states. So now Georgia has a neurodiversity chamber of commerce. They were number 2. And we hope that lots of other states in the
Look at
US do the
that.
same thing.
The work doesn't stop for you, huh? I
No,
don't know when you're
definitely not.
working. Okay, I don't know when your phone's not ringing. You got so many different things you're doing. Amanda, I'll leave you with this blind question before you ask your blind question. So, what's one
Yes.
lesson a child at Firefly taught you that no doctorate degree ever will?
Oh my gosh, ask me that again.
Yeah, no worries. What is one lesson that a child at Firefly taught you that no doctorate ever will?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. That is such a good question. I can safely say that what these children have taught me is resilience. And you have no idea what these kids go through and what their families go through. You have no idea. And every single child is so unique and so different, and their experiences are so unique and so different. The resilience and the ability to just keep going and keep learning, it's absolutely, it takes your breath away. It really does. And there is no doctorate, no education can teach you that. It's absolutely, it's so profound.
I love it. And what's your blind question to the next leader we have here on the Heart and Hustle?
My question is, who in your life has been the most significant influence on your journey?
Okay, all right, I love it, Amanda. This is amazing. Too bad your sister couldn't be here. It would have been great to have both
I
of you
know.
guys here. No, one day we'll bring both sisters on. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for what you do in this community. I have a niece and nephew also with autism, and it is truly different. And seeing what my sister has to go through and seeing the pain sometimes that she's encountered, feeling for herself that there's not much she can do because she has to take care of these kids and sometimes feel like she's in it alone. I can imagine these all experiences and things that you hear, day in, day out. So I'm happy that we were able to have this conversation. I'm a big believer that one story, one conversation can change somebody's life. So I'm hoping that somebody's listening right now and realizing that there's actually an organization called Firefly Autism that would be more than happy to answer a call, answer any questions that they may have, even if it's not local. But there's
Yeah.
people out there that are fighting for them, that care for them, and they see them and hear them. So Amanda, we thank you so much for your time. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and also tag someone that may be dealing with some of these needs and just looking for a voice that could really help them through. Amanda, it's been a pleasure. My name's Ephraim, Heart and Hustle Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank
Laters.
you.